You don't do a good performance. You have to. That's the toughest thing, is to do a good show when you think the audience is not good enough for you, and that happens in the long run. You've got to constantly fight against that, and you should never let down. And I won't do that. I've learned that the hard way. What?
Sorry, go on.
Go on. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
I kind of enjoy sometimes when the audience isn't very active, like yesterday's matinee, for example.
They were dead.
There was nothing going
dead audience.
There was actually a point where a huge laugh comes at one point. Stan said his line. There was absolutely no laugh, and he looked at me and went. And I was like, I don't remember you ever making that face before any other run. But something happens where the play becomes mine again.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, they can join us, or clearly they're not going to, or whatever. So now I can actually
Then you really just do it for
just
you.
have a very full emotional experience of this play for
That's what I
myself.
do to fight against it, is to play. And it is true. I like yesterday's performance, the same for me. Although, I didn't do the matinee.
How many shows a week do you do?
I don't do any of them. I'm just here as a guest. This is not being broadcast.
We have another question here from this young man.
Hi, my name is Graham Skipper. My question is for the panel. I was wondering what your views are on the amplification of shows.
Sound. Microphones.
Okay. I love my sound guys. I love my union. I'm not going to discuss sound at all today.
Anybody here want to take it on? Yes.
I'll do it. There are two schools of thought, and we have people in our theater who just disdain having to wear a microphone and absolutely hate being amplified, saying that I've trained for so long to learn how to amplify with my own body. I should be allowed to do it. And my school of thought is this: winter, flu season, microphone, best friend. There are a lot of different ways of doing it.
Eastern philosophy.
And I chant this with candles in front of me, with my legs crossed. And but in all seriousness, how do you guys hide microphones? But I guess you don't. No, I guess there's, but I mean, when you do, especially when you're doing a musical, and you have the orchestra, and even without amplification, they can really overpower you. You'd better be Ethel Merman, or you won't be heard without amplification. And she was one of these rare people that I've been told that could just fill a house with her voice and with her presence without a microphone. And I'm like, how did she do it? I mean, how can I do it? I'm 5'3". I don't know how I'm going to be able to reach the back of the house without amplification. But in Saigon, when we did it in London, and the house was 2,250 people, or is it 2,550 people? But it was one of the biggest houses in London, and because of the way they were built, those old houses, they've got the best acoustics. So they really minimized the amount of amplification that they gave us to the point where you could feel like you were singing in a vacuum. So you didn't know necessarily if you were in tune or not. So my thing is, amplification's okay if it helps, to reach the back of the house, but you have to work to get something out, because I also disdain it when an actor is over amplified, because you might as well just put a CD on and have them lip sync on stage, and that's not theater, and that's cheating an audience for me to do it that way, because they expect that live performance coming from the stage, and they want to hear it like it's coming from the stage, not from a speaker all the way in the back.
Any other thoughts on mics?
Well, I agree. I think that the technique of miking people has gotten a lot better. It's interesting to me that we've always had the equipment on Broadway, but we haven't had the operators that could really use it. Like the rock stars were the ones that learned how to use sound much better than we did. I go back to when I would work with an actress who was wearing what they called in those days a Vega. Is that what they used to call them? Vega mics. Chest mic, and I would play from the front mics. So I would sing like this, and then when I talk, I would sing like this. I did private lives. I shouldn't tell this story.
Oh, tell it.
I did private lives with Burton and Taylor, and I had scenes with Elizabeth Taylor. Nobody knew I was on stage at the time. But we played the Opera House in Washington, this enormous house, and it was extraordinary because when you're talking because they had to mic her so loudly, and she came out beautifully, and I would go, it was just ringing off the walls. So, but they've gotten a lot better with using mics, and you have to join them now.
I think the thing to remember also is, I've never done a musical and never will do one. You hope I never do one.
We've got a place for you.
Maybe I'll just do your matinee.
Naked.
I think, like with our play, with a straight play, I think that we're in an old house. We're in the Belasco, which is 1907, and the acoustics are very, very good. But the problem is that plays are very different now from the way they were in 1907, and acting is very different now. Acting is very naturalistic, and a lot of our play is theatrical. Certainly, what my character is doing, but there are moments of real intimacy here, and that almost a cinematic intimacy. And I think that we have booster mics on the stage, which we do make use of. I think it's important to have them because the style of acting is very different than it was when that house was built, and I think you have to account for that. I prefer things not to be amplified if possible, but a little help that isn't noticed, I think, is okay because of where things are now.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Sarah Price, and this question is for the panel. When you've had to audition for roles in the past, maybe when you first started out as actors, how did you go about choosing a monologue when you had to bring one in? Where would you find them? How long did it take you to pick a monologue?
Okay, who has a monologue?
I came from drama school with 5. So that's how I did it. That's just like, and never used them.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have a monologue?
I would read something and then I'd end up making stuff up. I did. I was never I never did monologues.
Stanley, did you have a monologue?
I did have monologues, but they weren't really. I mean, I had them at school, but we weren't.
But
I never really used them in New
them.
York.
Oh,
They just give you something to do. Seldom were they used.
I always auditioned for musicals. I had songs instead of monologues.
Oh, okay. So you had a song, but you had a song that you had chosen?
Sometimes, yes, depending on what I was auditioning for. When I was auditioning for Saigon when I was 17, I came in with On My Own thinking, it's a Bob Leland-Schonberg show. I'd better come in with a Bob Leland-Schonberg song. And then they asked me to sing something else. And I'm like, and I said, complete blank out. I said, okay, can I do The Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston? And I thought I was going to have to do it a cappella, and then by sheer divine something or other, somebody left their music on the piano.
No.
And I used it. And it was perfect. It was in my key. I sang it, and I got the
It was meant to be. Did you have a monologue?
It's been such a long time since we've had to use monologues to audition. As Stan said, they give you stuff. I get an anxiety attack just thinking about those days. But what I would recommend, if that's what I'm being asked to do in any way here, is to pick something close to yourself, something that you might actually, around your age and the lifestyle that you might understand. Because those are the things, I think those are the best way to represent yourself if that's what you're being asked to do, rather than doing a huge stretch. My experience was picking stuff that was close to me.
Did you have a monologue or two?
No, actually, when I came to New York, I had such a strong Tennessee accent. I talked like this, kind of like this, and the only time it disappeared when I would do Shakespeare, which and that's all I was in, for a few years. And you didn't. I don't ever remember auditioning for a play. You didn't get to audition for plays. You had to be invited when I first came here. Musicals, you could audition, and I only knew the last 16 bars of On the Street Where You Live for 2 years. That's all
You sang that?
And I used to screw it up every time.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Christina Lind. This question is for Stanley Tucci. In your opinion, what are the major differences in your acting or directing choices from film to theater?
Next. I don't. The difference between the choices in acting as an actor.
And or directing, acting and directing, yeah.